All right. So everyone, welcome to the TMAP application support webinar. Really long terminology already. TMAP Technology Management Advancement Program, call it TMAP for short. But in this hour-long webinar, we'll be providing an overview of the TMAP program, along with some best practices and tips for submitting a strong and compelling application for this upcoming cohort 8 in Sacramento. A little bit of information about the person who's speaking today. My name is Andrew Hawkins. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the Education Program Specialist with CITE, and I have the unique privilege of managing the TMAP program. So for all folks interested in TMAP and for folks who do eventually apply and are accepted into the program, I will be your go-to person, your point of contact for our TMAP related concerns regarding application, scheduling, facilitator communication, homework assignments, location logistics, and so on. So here's my email address, andrew.hawkins@cite.org. You'll see it multiple times. I'll also be sure to drop my email in the chat for you all in case anyone has questions they'd rather reach out in private to me about. You might also see or hear from another CITE person on our call, Eileen Chang, who's our Senior Education Program Manager and who previously managed the TMAP program. So lots of experience on this call. So in case you happen to hear another floating voice, it's likely Eileen jumping in. Now, I'm not really sure where folks are coming from. We might have some CITE education members. We might have folks who are really new to CITE and are just learning about what we do. So to help orient us to both CITE's mission and TMAP's program purpose, I do have a brief video that I'd like to play. Now, we tested this video out a few minutes ago. It is a little bit choppy, so I'll go off mute and I'll go on mute and camera off for this video to hopefully boost quality a little bit. But in case it's still choppy, I'll be sure to share a link of the video afterwards in case you want to watch it on your own time. Anyone give me a thumbs up if you can hear, or hop off mute and let me know.
It's playing good. Looks
Okay.
good.
Originally founded in 1960 as CITE, CITE has been bringing together California IT professionals in the K-12 field, along with well-known celebrities, to share, learn, and form both professional and personal bonds for the past 65 years.
This is our professional home, and it really is. It's a place where your acceptance and you bring your troubles and you bring your accolades, and everybody shares with you in all of that.
Certainly with the charter and even just any small school district, it's very easy to feel isolated. And so CITE helps make that as easy as possible to make connections and to make sure that we have the best and the most appropriate technology that we can have for our students and community.
I became a CITE member because I was looking for a network. I'm in a really small town, in a really small district, and I'm the only person in my position, so I needed people to help me do the things and learn the job and kind of expand my own horizons, and CITE does that. And being able to attend the CITE conference and actually learn about things that are coming or things that we're doing or best practice or things to avoid, really helps.
The thing that's probably surprised me the most about CITE and the impact that it's had is how quickly and easily it is to integrate some of these strategies and these resources. A lot of times we didn't know that we needed this different workflow or this different resource, but once implementing it, it's, surprise, where's this been all of our lives? And so we're constantly improving because of what CITE has to offer.
Well, I have to say probably my favorite conference memory is really just, it's the first time presenting. So a lot of nerves when you kind of get through what are we going to talk about, planning, preparation, all of that. But seeing people at the conference that I was in my TMAP cohort with, and just everyone that I've networked with, either at the Capitol Corridor meetings or in my programs, in a different space like a conference, was just amazing.
being able to tap on a resource or a community that's facing something similar is not just valuable to resolve the problem, but for you individually to understand that you're not that solo star in the solar system. There is a whole universe that's facing the same thing that you are, just from a different perspective.
You know, they're always advocating for you. There is a real sense of, I got your back. I see that personally, and I've also seen that with colleagues.
This is like something that every school district needs. And I've talked to people who do the kind of IT leader jobs in other states, and they go, I wish we had something like this. So for me, it's not just a professional organization, but a great network of just great people.
Because we all have the mindset, I think, of like, it's okay to admit I don't know or this isn't working for me. It becomes a space where you can kind of live at the boundary of where you're comfortable and continue to push limits.
It kind of reignited the desire to learn. I haven't been in school in a long time. I thought I was done with school, but I saw that there was an opportunity for more professional growth.
There's that saying of how like a rising tide raises all ships, and that's how the CITE program is. It really is a program where everyone's on the same team and we're all trying to accomplish the same goal, which is help out kids in the classroom. And really, CITE is just an extension of that.
CITE is not only a professional IT group of people in education, but it's a community to belong to. I'm a true believer, together we'll go far.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that video. When I first watched this, I was just amazed, first of all, at how large site was. Did y'all see those conference scenes? It was massive. And every year we keep on just growing bigger and bigger. So I'm really excited to be going to this upcoming conference in November. I'm actually relatively new to site. I'm just about 2.5 months in, but as you can see, site has been around for a really long time through a couple of different iterations. So we're actually coming up on our 65th anniversary. So it's a really cool and fun time to be a part of the site community. And what I really loved about so many of the testimonials you see in the video, and one of the remarks I've heard quite frequently is, where has this been all my life? You know, a lot of our folks working in IT in K to 12, they're often working in really siloed positions. They might be, as you heard from one alumni member, one of the only people working in their role in their district, or one of the very few. So it could be a really isolating role to be a part of, yet it's so important and it really contributes to the overall function and sustainability of organizations. So the fact that we have a membership organization like this, where we have peers rooting for us, we have invaluable expertise all across the organization, that's just such a valuable piece of, I think, working in K to 12 IT. But a little bit more about TMAP specifically. What is TMAP? So before answering this question with my own interpretation, I do want to talk a little bit about what TMAP is not. So TMAP is not an HR training. We are not qualified to produce HR professionals. That is not what we're about. You will, without a doubt, walk away with some HR policies and protocols you could take over to your own LEA. And we actually have one module in particular that covers a lot of HR management and people management aspects, but we are not an HR training program. We're also not a technical training advancement program. So we're not necessarily here to teach you how to do better at your individual role. Say if you're a systems admin, we're not going to be focused on system admin work and what it means to be a better systems admin. You will inevitably walk away with skills that make you a better person at doing your job, but that's not our goal. And I say that because we attract a really diverse community of people from all different position types and role types with varying leadership responsibilities. So TMAP is really for anyone who is interested in who currently is a manager or is interested in being a potential manager or director in the future. So our program purpose is to provide management fundamentals to individuals who are new or interested in becoming managers. So what we're really trying to do is not really teach you how to do your day-to-day job. A lot of our folks come in really well versed at that, but we're more so interested in cultivating a new lens and framework that you can use when doing your job. And that lens is a lens of management and leadership. It's a much different aspect of being really skilled at doing your job versus being skilled in leadership and being an inclusive leader to inspire and enact change in other people around you and in projects around you. So that's really what we're hoping our candidates walk away with by the end of the program. So you can see just based off TMAP's program purpose here, how well it really meshes with CITE's overall mission of cultivating, leading, developing, and supporting technologists and ed organizations to inspire student success. We really need skilled leaders in order to do that work and drive change across K-12 institutions. A little bit about where TMAP came from. So we're actually a relatively new program. We kicked off TMAP in 2022, and it was in response to a lot of folks really being interested in site education programs, but them not really seeing a home from them. We started off with our flagship program, CTO Mentor Program, about 20 years ago. We're about to enter our, I believe, 20th cohort next year, and that's been thriving for many, many years. But not everyone is looking to be a chief technology officer. Not many folks have the experience to apply for that program. So we had a lot of folks who were saying like, hey, I really want to get more involved. I want more leadership skills. I want to grow in my organization, but I'm not at that level. I'm still young in my career. What can we do? So we heard a lot of that feedback, and we eventually curated a pipeline, a career pipeline program that allows folks that are brand new to K-12 IT to have a path to further their leadership development and career development. So we actually worked backwards, if you can see this graphic, starting with the CTO Mentor Program 20 years ago, kicking off TMAP about 3 or 4 years ago now, and we just kicked off KIT, which is our K-12 IT Technician Program for those folks entirely new to IT and K-12, or who might be working in K-12, but who are interested in pursuing IT fields. We also have a pathway for them. Who is TMAP for? As I mentioned, TMAP is for aspiring and current managers or directors, or anyone really considering a career in K-12 IT management or has an interest in leading teams. You can see from this this table right here, here are some of the roles that we see applying for TMAP. So a lot of these roles, you can see they're not manager type roles. You don't need direct management experience to submit a really strong TMAP application. It helps if you're a manager and you already have that experience leading teams, but it's not necessary. What we do really love to see and would encourage you to put it in your application is your experience that demonstrate your leadership in projects, in cross-team collaboration, and supporting teams. We really want to see that leadership experience shine through, even if it's not reflected in your title specifically. So here are just a few different roles that have come across in TMAP in past years as participants and graduates. So we've had assistant directors and directors, we've had managers and supervisors apply, but we've also had folks on the technician level and coordinators. We've had network and security folks, data analyst folks apply, systems admin, and then other folks who are working in K-12 IT, but whose roles can't easily fit in one of these buckets. So more specifically, you can see here the breakdown of graduates we've had over the past 4 years. So with our current cohort that just wrapped up last month, our spring cohort, cohort 7, we now have 117 TMAP alum across the state of California. And that's a really large network of diverse experiences and knowledge and solution-oriented people who are sharing solutions and problem solving amongst their alumni group and cohorts. And I think that's like one of the biggest benefits you'll see in this webinar and also hear me speak about repeatedly is that cohort experience. The fact that so many people from across the state are coming together, are leaning on each other for support, and at the end of their cohort experience, they're added to this really large alumni group. So you can see here, we have folks really coming from across the board. You have folks in your leadership positions, but not exclusively. You also have folks in network and security, data applications, and we hope with the addition of cohort 8 coming up this fall that we're able to just grow this list and add on to some of the roles that are already here, and maybe add in a couple of new categories from folks who are really niche in their fields. So in case you might be new to CITE or TMAP specifically, here's a brief overview of what TMAP is. And I'll start with this program outline of TMAP. So TMAP operates 2 cohorts each year, one in the spring and one in fall, and they kind of alternate in regions. So this past cohort that we had in spring 2025, that was based in SoCal, that took place in Orange County. This fall, we're going back up to NorCal and we'll be in Sacramento. So the reason why we operate in these 2 different regions is we really want to accommodate as many people as possible. And sometimes folks coming into TMAP who are interested, they might be pretty early on in the career and might not have the financial backing that directors and CTOs have. So we really want to accommodate those people who may not be able to get time off in advance, who may not be able to travel. So we go to NorCal and SoCal regions so we can be closer to folks who are really looking for that TMAP experience. TMAP ranges from a 12 to 16-week program. So depending on where TMAP dates fall on, what holidays are considered, you can expect to participate in the program anywhere from 3 to 4 months total. Each cohort has 6 different sessions that cover 5 modules. The reason why it's split up that way is because one module, module 4, is actually a 2-part module. So in total, there are 6 classes that our cohort members experience. 3 of those classes are in-person sessions that range between 6 to 8 hours each. And all of these in-person sessions for cohort 8 in the fall will be in Sacramento on site. And we have 3 sessions that are online virtual sessions based on Zoom, and those are 4 hours each. So we kind of alternate on a bi-weekly schedule. We kick off fall programming on September 5th. 2 weeks later, we have another module. 2 weeks later, so forth and so on. With the exception of module 4, because it's 2 big chunks plugged into one module, that one is actually separated by 1 week. So within all of your in-person sessions and your virtual sessions, there's also a lot of discussion and activities and assignments that fulfill your time in TMAP. So I'll give a brief rundown of what all of these are. Discussions happen both in class, either in person or on Zoom, but also a part of your homework assignments. So you can expect, of course, in-person discussions where we're talking about some challenges that we're experiencing and we're brainstorming potential solutions with our peers, guided by our facilitators. But there are also discussions that we post and respond to our peers on our learning management system, which we use Canvas. Of course, we're going to have in-session activities that are influenced by asynchronous learning material. So before each class, we'll be required to complete pre-reading. And that pre-reading is to provide us with an overview of the content and concepts that would be dug deeper into during class. So it's really pertinent that that pre-reading is done ahead of time so you come into class feeling prepared and able to talk with the rest of your cohort about what was covered. You can expect assignments both before class and after class. So every week, you'll pretty much be working on some TMAP related activity, and you can estimate about 10 hours of work per class. So per each session, about 10 hours of work. This includes your reading, this includes discussion posts, and this includes working on your assignments. And all of this is to culminate in your final presentation at the very end of TMAP, which we call your capstone. And your final presentation, we provide you with a lot of support. You're not thrown this assignment, 1 or 2 weeks beforehand. You're actually working on this assignment from the beginning of your TMAP experience. And we incorporate assignments, mini assignments throughout the 6 weeks to really prepare you for that final capstone at the end of the cohort experience. And now what sort of support do we offer? Obviously, TMAP is a relatively long program. It's also requires financial investment. So we really want to make sure that we are providing support for you to do well in this program. So some of that support looks like TA office hours. We have highly knowledgeable TMAP alum and CTO mentor alum that join every year as teaching assistants for TMAP program. They provide invaluable feedback in response to some of your homework assignments. And they also host office hours on particular assignments. So as you're working through assignments every week, if you have questions, if something's kind of new to you, you want a second pair of ears and eyes, someone to kind of bounce back ideas on, you have your TAs who also have dedicated office hours. You also receive the support of site staff, folks like myself, and the rest of the education programs department who are there to support you in your journey, respond to all communications, provide you with all the information you need to attend sessions on time, to receive your assignments on time, and ensure that you every step of the program is clear along the way. So for TMAP specifically, I am your go-to person, your first line of contact. So I'll be the person you reach out to first. And if I don't know something, you can absolutely believe that I'll contact the rest of the team to see if they have answers to some of your questions. And lastly, the biggest support that TMAP offers is really the support of each other, your peers. This cohort experience that you've heard about in the 65th anniversary video and what I've been talking about. So many of our participants come from very unique roles within K-12 IT, and it really amounts to this beautiful, diverse experience of perspectives um, and past experiences that are able to come together, problem solve, hand off solutions that could be applied the next day. And that's one of the most beautiful things about TMAP, I think. You can come to your cohort with a question, maybe something that's been giving you so much, headache and anxiety, bring it to the floor with your cohort, and very likely someone has encountered this in the past or may have a template or a resource to guide you toward finding a solution to the problem that you're dealing with. And I think that support is so valuable because that's one that doesn't just end with TMAP. It continues in your alumni groups and in your conversations and discourse that you establish as a cohort itself. Here's some of the details that you can expect for our upcoming cohort, cohort 8. So that's going to be taking place this fall. The location is NorCal, will be at the Sacramento County Office of Education in Mather, California. The cost for TMAP tuition is $3,500 for members, education members. And if you're not a member, we still invite you to apply. However, tuition is different. It's $37.50 for non-members. So if you are not a member yet, we really encourage you to explore CITE membership. There are so many more advantages you get besides discounted tuition to TMAP. You're also one of the first people to know about new education offerings. You're included in the exclusive CITE community of members only to bounce back ideas off of each other and to be afloat of new policies affecting K-12 education. So there's a host of benefits. You also get discounted registration for a conference, a host of benefits for members explicitly. You can see the class schedule. There's a link right there, cite.org/TMAP, that'll take you to all information on TMAP, as well as the application and schedule, but we'll also be reviewing the schedule in just the next slide. And cohorts are capped at 20 seats per cohort. TMAP has continued to grow exponentially. So every year we're receiving more applications than we have seats available. So this makes cohort 8 one of our more competitive programs. So we'll go over some best tips and practices for submitting a strong application, but this is really my advance notice to you that you really want to be serious about TMAP because there's a lot of other folks submitting an application that are really serious and that want a seat within the cohort, and we have limited seats available. So some things about cost. Your tuition covers course materials, both in-person and online materials. It covers your access to our learning management system, covers your access to asynchronous content, as well as food during your in-person sessions. So there's 3 sessions across fall where we go to Sacramento. Meals will be covered. However, you are responsible for paying for your own travel and lodging to in-person classes.
Andrew, we have a question in the chat.
Oh,
Has the
yes, I did not see that.
2026 spring location has that been announced?
Great question. The spring 2026 and actually all 2026 education programs have not been solidified or announced yet. What you could expect is for that location to be in Southern California. So every cohort we alternate regions. So we don't know exactly in SoCal or when that will be. Besides, you could expect spring months, but that region will be in SoCal. So if you are attending right now and you may not really have access to travel to Sacramento this year, but you're really hoping to join TMAP in a future cohort, you could expect that to be closer to you next spring. We'll be in SoCal. Thanks, Eileen. And I'm having trouble seeing chats that come in, so if any more chats come in, please, announce yourself, raise your hand if you have a question, or unmute yourself and let me know in case I happen to miss it. Um, I acknowledge that 3,500 it is an investment in yourself and in your LEA in your career development. We highly recommend you to consult with your district's HR or bargaining unit to see if there are professional learning funds available for your participation. Lots of leaders across K-12 institutions, especially at the CTO level, superintendents, they're really familiar with CITE's work, and they want people who are trained in CITE's leadership philosophies on their team to share their work and train their colleagues and really impart their knowledge that they gained from TMAP. So I definitely recommend talking to your directors, talking to your CTO, and seeing if there is that potential to be funded or partly funded, because it really is not only an investment to yourself, but also to your district. Um, and if you do explore and exhaust those opportunities, then of course, self-funding is also a possibility. You can also connect with us about setting up a payment plan if a one lump sum payment doesn't really work for you. So if you have questions specifically about payment, feel free to reach out to me via email and I could guide you along through some of our options for payments. Here's a look at that schedule for this fall in Sacramento. So here you can see the 6 different classes that we have covering 5 modules. And here's that module that I told you is kind of combined technology systems. It's broken up into 2 parts, project management and cybersecurity. So this schedule, you don't see the breakdown of in-person versus Zoom sessions, but if you want that, here's the hyperlink to take you to our CITE TMAP page. You can see the schedule with the breakdown of what classes are in person versus on Zoom. So I'm showing this in advance because if you are interested in applying for this fall cohort, really look at your schedule, look ahead at spring and see what you have going on. Attendance is required for site completion. We have a question. Does completing TMAP give us priority for the CTO program? Really great question. So there is not a place on the rubric during the application process for TMAP or CTO that indicates, hey, I'm an alum of a group, I get preference. You aren't awarded specifically any additional points for being a member. However, I think it's without a doubt your experience in participating in a program like KIT or TMAP, it's going to serve you well when applying for a program like CTO Mentor. Not only are you going to have the connections of the broader CITE and TMAP alumni community, you're also going to be able to speak much more coherently and strongly about what your goals are for the CTO experience because you're already familiar with CITE programs and the CITE community. So it doesn't give you priority status over other applicants who come in without participating in a program, but I think you are able to cultivate a stronger application because of your past experience. Great question. So as I mentioned, attendance is required for all modules in order to complete the program and receive your TMAP badge and certificate. With that said, we understand that everyone here, they're human beings, and that life is often unexpected, and especially now, things are really unpredictable. So if you are considering applying for TMAP, I do recommend you review your calendar to assess if there are any potential scheduling conflicts before applying, because we wouldn't want, the occasion where you apply, you're accepted, and then you realize you can't attend 2 modules that may result in you being dropped from the program or not being able to complete the program successfully. So really take a look at your schedule ahead of time and see if this is the right cohort for you to apply to, or if it might be better for you to apply to next spring's cohort. Now, what does that application process look like? You might have seen the application. It's already online. It's been online for a few weeks, but hopefully you've come here for kind of a sneak peek at what you could expect. What sort of is the mindset behind the folks reviewing your application, what we're looking for, and how your application could stand out. Here's a brief timeline of the application process. So applications have been open for about 3 weeks. They opened on June 5th. Applications will remain open for another 3 weeks and will close on July 15th. After that time, we will close the application link. We'll then send applications to our Education Programs Committee who will review applications against a rubric. and score those applications based on the rubric. We'll receive the committee's evaluations on all applications and will notify candidates mid-August. So I'm striving for a notification date of around the second week of August to notify all folks who have been accepted into TMAP and who have been rejected into TMAP so they can plan, so they can receive feedback on their application and hopefully come back with a stronger application for future years. And then during that time between mid-August to the beginning of September, we'll be sending you communications, calendar invites, information about the location, access to our Canvas learning platform, along with all information you need to feel supported and ready to attend kickoff on September 5th. So as a reminder, if you walk away with nothing but this, remember all applications and reference forms should be submitted by the end of day July 15th. And for my interpretation of end of day, let's consider that 11:59 p.m. for any of our night owls who might be working that night. Go ahead, feel free to submit it before midnight, but any application submitted after 11:59 will not be considered. That application form will be closed that morning as soon as I'm online. So here are some application components you can expect. We have a question from Cruz. When is the money due if accepted? Great question, Cruz. Eileen, would you be able to hop on and provide some clarification around when payment is due for TMAP?
That's a good question. So typically we've been pretty lenient on payment when that is due. We do have payment arrangements, so some folks who opt to pay before the actual TMAP cohort ends. Some folks elect to pay it up front. Depends on where your budget is at your own LEA, or if you do pay out of pocket. I would say consider those. So if you are thinking of paying for the course yourself, we can set up payment plans. If it is something that is a line item in your budget, maybe consider paying it up front through your district.
Yes, yes. So we definitely try to work with you wherever you are. If you are self-financing this or getting support from your district, just keep us in the loop. Let us know once you submit your application or once you've been accepted, hey, this is kind of the situation I'm in. Could y'all work with me? And we'll really try our best to get you in the program, even if it means you're on a payment plan or due date for all payments is kind of stretched out throughout your participation in TMAP. So any specific scenarios, run them by us, send me an email, and we'll be sure to talk about it so you feel ready about, and good about submitting an application and being able to fund it. Here is what you can expect as part of that application that's already online. So there's a handful of short paragraph questions there, and you should plan on submitting your responses for each question between 100 and 300 words. Now that's not a whole lot of space to work with, so we're really asking you to maximize the words that you're given, maximize the space that you're given, and be sure that each word counts. You want to really highlight the best parts of yourself, your accomplishments, your goals for advancing in your district and expanding your impact. So you really have to be intentional about the words that you choose to curate that 100 to 300 word response. We also want you to be paying attention to grammar, things like spelling and clarity. We know that some of you may not be managers, but you should have a few years of IT K-12 experience under your belt. And you should absolutely, especially if you're looking at pursuing a leadership role in the future, you should be looking at how your written communication, because that's how you're able to convey clarity and your ideas to others. So that's absolutely something that I'll be looking at and the rest of the application, the Education Programs Committee, grammar, spelling, and clarity. We do have modules that explicitly cover professional writing and business writing, so your writing will improve with TMAP, but we do want to make sure that you are being diligent and reviewing your application before submitting to us. You can also expect to attach your resume to the application as a file, and then there's a required reference form. It's recommended that this reference form be from your current supervisor, direct supervisor, or from your director of IT or CTO. Any of these three titles we found are really ideal choices to really speak to the value that you can bring to TMAP and also your LEA. We have a question from George. Does the application have to be completed in one sitting, or are we able to save our progress? I'm really glad you asked that because we're sure to get to it later. And I might actually save that question, George, for when we get to it, which I think it might be in the next slide or two. So here are some application essentials. What information or experience that you should possess. You should be working in K-12 public education. If you're working in the private sector or not in support of K-12 public education, you might be in the wrong webinar, but save this for your colleagues who might be working in those fields. You are expected to complete all application components, including your resume, the application form, and at least one reference form. If you have multiple people who are willing to be a reference and speak to your ability to do well in the program, by all means, great. It doesn't necessarily give you extra points for comparing your application against our rubric, but it is really good to see that a lot of people are vouching for you to do well in the program. And lastly, submit this on time. Again, the due date is July 15th, the end of the day, 11:59. Applications submitted after that time will not be considered. So those are essentials, what your application should absolutely reflect. These are the things you should reflect in your application if you really want your application to stand out and for it to be competitive. One, like I mentioned, crafting that clear and compelling short responses. You're working with a really small, space for your words, so you really want to make sure that each word matters and counts, and you're not really putting in fluff, especially since our seasons are being more and more competitive each year. You want to highlight your supervisory and leadership experience. Even if you are not a current director or manager or supervisor, you may have led or contributed significantly to team projects or to supporting other teams, other staff in a leadership way. So really highlight that, speak to it. And I think it's even more important if you are not a manager or a director that we see this leadership experience in your application. So really highlight that. Also, have someone review your application. This could be a really trusted colleague, one of your mentors, your supervisor, someone you really trust to give you honest feedback. It really helps, especially if you've been kind of away from the job market scene for a while, haven't really submitted any professional writing or application type materials. It really helps to have a fresh pair of eyes review your materials and just kind of give you feedback on things that are really strong versus things that could be strengthened in your application. Um, Along with having someone review your application, a potential tool you could use is AI. You can use AI as a tool to proofread responses and to ensure responses are clear, concise for readers. Now, I want to be very explicit when I say using AI as a tool to strengthen your response, not using AI as a tool to write your response. Please do not do that. We have a team of education program leaders on our education program committees that would be reviewing your application. They likely have seen AI content many, many times and will be able to quickly identify it. So we do not want anyone to be rejected for that reason. So again, if you do choose to use AI, it could be used as a really great tool for strengthening your responses, but should not take place of you writing your response yourself. Eileen, question.
Not so much a question, more of a comment.
Mhm.
The AI comment there also applies to your references. So if you are to ask for a reference from your supervisor, from your director, from your supervisor, please make sure that it is authentic and honest about your experience, because we also notice it if it is written kind of in an AI tone. So that's it.
Great point, Eileen. So, when you're thinking about which person you should identify as your reference, really think about how well do you know them? What's your relationship level? If it's someone you don't know as much, maybe they're new, you're new to working with them, how well would they be able to speak to your leadership capabilities and your experience in your LEA? If it's not likely a long time, then maybe think of a person who really does know you, who is a leader in your district and can speak to that experience. And also think about, do they have the time to do so? If you're chasing your CTO and you're having the hardest time getting in contact with them, maybe they're really busy, and ask yourself, will they have the time to craft a really strong reference letter in support of my TMAP participation? If you're feeling like that answer is no, then maybe consider an alternative reference. So really think about relationships when you're thinking about who to ask for a reference. Going back to George's question earlier about does the application save your responses? So applications do not save your responses. So we have questions that are required questions. So you kind of have to complete one page of required questions before having access to the next page. So if you're completing your application in one sitting, then that's awesome. You could kind of have the application and breeze through it. But some folks want to kind of see the questions and return to it, work on it every now and then. So what I recommend is saving your application responses on a separate document, say a Word document, and then when you have all short responses curated and they're in a place where you feel really good about, then copying and pasting those questions onto the SurveyMonkey application that we're using. So to give you kind of a preview of what those questions are, if you go to the application link, the TMAP application, you should see in the written instructions, there's a PDF that contains the application questions. So if you don't want to go through and put in some like random fields in the application just to see the questions, you could click on that link, see those questions, and then copy and paste them to a Word document, for example, then work on your responses that way before submitting on the SurveyMonkey. So highly recommend doing that so you can kind of see, you can see if you're filling up the 100 to 300 word count, and you can see like in one clear view if this is going to be a really strong application. And I think it really helps with peer review too. If there's like a peer or mentor you want to provide feedback on your application, you can do so on a Word document. You can't really do so on the SurveyMonkey form. Oh, and lastly, make sure your links work. Remember, the links that we're asking for, you will be expected to attach a file of your resume. We also have some optional fields like attaching, including your personal website if you have one, or your LinkedIn. Do make sure your resume links work. Your LinkedIn, if you're attaching it, make sure it's functional. Test it in an anonymous browser setting. You really want to make sure that those work because it looks really poorly on you if it is submitted and our education programs committee could not view it and has to reach out to you for clarification. Not only does it delay our ability to review your application, but it also just doesn't look that great. All of us working in IT, it should be part of our regular work life now, making sure links work before publishing. Now, after your participation in CITE, we want to make sure that we're rewarding you for all the time and money you're investing in the program. So some things that you can expect by the end of the cohort are your CITE badge. You can see that right. Oh, where'd it go? You can see that right here. A lot of folks include this in their email signature. You also receive a link that reflects your CITE badge and also shows any verifiers, what the criteria for your CITE badge were, so folks can know that you really took your time in this really intensive program and you are duly awarded this badge. A lot of alumni, we also see they add this to their LinkedIn as a certification. You could also expect your TMAP certificate, social media recognition, recognition with the CITE board, and recognition at our annual conference. So we definitely hope that this experience with TMAP exposes you if you're not already familiar with the broader CITE community, so you can have those connections and we could really celebrate you at the conference if you would be so, if you would join us there. We also do expect folks to maintain their certification status, and you do so by completing CPEs, continuing professional education credits. So every program, including TMAP, has a CPE minimum requirement that you're expected to fulfill every 2 years. So you get more information on this requirement after you complete TMAP, but just know once you complete TMAP, we hope that that's not the end. We hear from you. We hope that you continue to engage with us and volunteer for additional opportunities, things like being a TA, opportunities like being a facilitator for our courses that all grants you CPE credits that you can use for recertification. Now, before we'll open it up for questions and comments, just one question that I want us to ponder. Why take TMAP? Is this something for me? And I think this is really the biggest reason why you might consider joining TMAP. It's for that network of people. You can see here just a few of the snapshots of folks we've had over our past couple of cohorts. As I mentioned earlier, working in K-12 IT could be a really isolating job, especially if you're working in a really small district where you might be one of a handful of people or the only person doing your role. It could feel like, oh my goodness, I'm in this alone. Where can I get support? There's no one else I can talk to from my district. TMAP and CITE is that support. We've had so many folks come on board and share with us how, they've been experiencing all of these troubles. They've been having, issues with rolling out a new protocol or a new tech system, and they're trying to get all this feedback from people, but there's no one available to give that feedback because no one exactly knows, no one is intimately aware of what's happening. But your TMAP folks are those people. They likely have done it. They may be currently experiencing the same issues that you have. And this is going to be by far the biggest benefit that you can walk away from outside of your certificate, your badge, the learnings that you will engage with, the connections you'll meet. It's really your TMAP network. I think one of the beautiful comments that I've heard from my short time on site and sitting in and meeting with folks from TMAC is just them saying like, I'm not alone with this. I feel so much more better. I feel so much more confident about doing my job because I know there's someone that I can lean on. I know that there's going to be someone with an open hand and with resources to share if I reach out to them. So I think that's really the biggest takeaway you can gain from your TMAP experience, walking away with that new community. And with that, I'll share this really beautiful quote that one of our most recent graduates from cohort 7 shared with us. I'll read it. Can't do so in their voice, but I'll do my best. TMAP has been a transformative experience for me. I've gained confidence, inner strength, and a renewed sense of purpose. One of the most meaningful aspects of this experience has been the connections I've made. This TMAP cohort has given me some amazing friends, and our collaboration continues beyond the program through the Slack channel, where we actively support one another and share resources to help others grow, which I think this testimony really captures the entire essence of this webinar and the benefits that TMAP offers. So if you're thinking of, is this a program right for me? I really hope that this one person's testimony, and of course the testimonies you saw from the 65th anniversary video, give you more information and more insight onto what you might walk away with after the program finishes. All right, y'all. With that said, we have about 10 more minutes for questions and answers. Before we close in 10 minutes, I'll be sure to drop my email in the chat in case you need to reach out to me afterward. I'll drop that 65th anniversary video as well in case the audio was choppy and you want to see that on your own time. But for now, we'll open this up to folks on the call. Feel free to chime in, write your question in the chat, or unmute yourself. Any questions you have based on the application or TMAP, we can get those addressed now.
I have a question, Andrew, regarding the letter of reference.
Yeah.
Will you need to complete your application first and then have your letter of recommendation sent afterwards, or how does that work? I'm trying to get so I can get the timing correct.
Yeah, great point. So they don't have to be submitted at the same time, but they are due at the same time, July 15th. So the reference form is a separate SurveyMonkey form. So what that looks like is there are a couple of ways you can access the reference form. You can go to this QR code that's on the slide here, and it'll take you to the general CITE TMAP website. You'll be able to click on links for both the survey and the reference form. So the reference form, you can go ahead and send it off to your recommender, but be sure to include their name and their information on your own TMAP application because that's going to be the person that we're looking out for. So they can submit, they will have their own SurveyMonkey form to submit. They can submit it on their own time, but we do recommend you just follow up with them, check in with them occasionally before the deadline to see that they do submit by the July 15th deadline, because we really hate to see, that be the reason why your app wasn't submitted. So right now we have 3 weeks before that deadline. So I think now is the time for you to be identifying potential references, asking them and getting them that reference form, the SurveyMonkey link they can get from the TMAP website.
Thank you.
Any other questions we have?
Andrew, something I've noticed in the past in our webinars is that if we hit that stop recording button, more questions come up. So how about we pause on that
Let us
recording?
do that. Absolutely. And I think we could actually stop recording right now. Folks who might be watching this at a later time, feel free to reach out to me, andrew.hawkins@cite.org, if you have any other questions. But now we'll leave the remaining time for folks who are on this call. So I'll stop recording now.